welcome to a brand new episode of Melt. I'm Ritvika Gupta. FMCG major ITC has been launching numerous new products to meet evolving consumer needs during COVID-19. The company has launched as many as 70 products in the first half of the financial year alone, which were mostly focused on categories like hygiene, health and wellness, and naturals and convenience. To find out how a time of crisis can accelerate innovations and opportunities, Anant Rangaswami, editor of Melt, catches up with Sameer Satpathy, Chief Executive Personal Care at ITC Limited. Let's get ready to melt with Sameer Satpathy.
Morning, Sameer.
Good morning. Morning, Anant. How are you?
All good. So, we've been doing this kind of lockdown series, if you will, for the last 7-8 months. And in the early days, the conversation was centering around how are they gearing up for production, how are they gearing up for distribution, and so on and so forth. And that was the conversation of the early days. What I want to explore with you, because you've done many launches, to many pieces of communication. So I want to talk to you and explore crisis as an opportunity for people, and explore whether how much was by design, how much was by fortune and accident. So tell me about the products you've launched and how they came about.
So, ITC seems to be a very, very large organization, but at the heart of it, it's a very small organization. And the way we are organized is that we are organized in businesses, and each of the businesses has, within governance parameters, has a lot of leeway on what and how we can approach our businesses. We have always leaned forward as far as innovation is concerned, and we have built a lot of capability in it across ITC and specifically in personal care, where we have a very large team of scientists. It's a very large center in Bangalore, and we also are networked across the world. We're working with different labs, different people, etc., etc. Secondly is our talent management practices were also because, right from the beginning, we were out of Calcutta. And talent for us was always, not many people, some people didn't want to work in Calcutta, some people didn't want. So we had moved to, talent which was already dispersed. So we had talent working out of Bangalore, we had talent out of Bombay, we had talent out of Chennai, out of Delhi. So we had different people in working. So we already were working in in an environment where talent was not geographically situated. So for us, the pandemic was a great opportunity because here we had pipelines which we had built over time. We were already working with consumers. So we had some idea, and we were, there were things which we were, we were building for the future. And when in the pandemic, we started watching the pandemic when it hit China.
Right.
Because China is somewhere, we said, hey, what's happening over here? It's a large thing. We also had suppliers there. So we had some, we have some minimum commercial contact. And that was the first inkling we had that, hey, there's something happening there which we should watch out for.
Right.
And at that point of time, I remember, as a gesture of goodwill, we sent some sanitizers over to our suppliers because they were out of stock. And then it struck us, hey, what if this comes to India? And what do we do? So we, we were mentally prepared. We were not physically prepared. We had not taken action, but mentally we had already started thinking in those lines. It was a combination of being opportunistic, but it was based on some fundamental work which we had done before. So when the thing started hitting, we were in touch with consumers. We worked digitally with consumers, tried to see what they were, and the kind of anxiety, the kind of insecurity which we saw. And we saw there was an opportunity to solve for them. Second thing is one thing we were also acutely aware of that countries have national champions. Each country has, you go to any country, you go to France, you see a L'Oreal, you see a Danone. ITC sees itself as a national champion for India. And we said, if we don't solve these problems for our country, nobody from the outside is going to do so. So we need to do something for the people, for society at large. And so it was a combination of opportunity and this sense of purpose overall also, which is prevalent in the organization. So we picked up trends early. We crafted products to that. I think the first big innovation we brought out was a disinfectant spray. uh, Sanitizers was the most obvious one, which everybody was doing. But we said the Savlon disinfectant spray, because what we realized was that people were uncomfortable about things coming into their house. They were uncomfortable with the spaces around them. They wanted to disinfect, their rooms in case, and especially in the beginning, when the disease was not very understood. So we figured that out. And then what we did was, uh, the part of the, even internally, like in any large organization, you have different teams, and we sometimes call them silos. So we had the perfume team, which had the technology, propulsion technology, and we had the health and hygiene team, which knew the science. So we got them to work together, and we got them to, bring out something very quickly. And we talked to our suppliers, and we couldn't have done it without our suppliers. We called them up and said, "Hey, we need this, and we need it now, and we don't need it tomorrow. We don't need it next week." So whether it was our suppliers in terms of our manufacture, RM, which are raw material, packaging vendors, or our agencies, everybody then, it was a sense of saying, hey, let's make this happen. And it was at a very pure level which was there.
Right.
Second thing, I think what another thing which we did was, in the beginning, was we called all the teams together, and we were working on multiple projects. So what the Savlon team was a small team, but we said all teams are now on Savlon. So everybody got a part of some insight and said, see what you can build on it. So there were independent teams which were working on different projects with science, with what we knew, and were crafting different things. So therefore we could, we could bring out. So we did not let uh, things get stuck at one node. So there are multiple nodes working on this. And overall, we called the teams in when we started, and we said, "Hey, we grant you absolution for failure."
Right.
So because we expect people fail in some places.
So tell me, how does this coordination get done? Like you said, you've got people in different verticals, with different responsibilities coming together, and all of them become Team Savlon. Who was the captain of Team Savlon in this case?
So the thing is, if I were to say it, it was, I think, collective leadership. Obviously, the Savlon team leaned in the most. So, complete credit to them. But everybody was given, because there were senior people across, are given different projects, and they all were working. And we used to meet every day in the morning, and we still do. So we spend an hour and a half looking at what we are doing. And it's a large, it's almost like a town hall. So there are some 40, 50 people who are in that meeting. So so everybody hears what's happening. So what normally happens in organizations, information doesn't travel. Herein, the information is simultaneously broadcast to a number of people who are upstream or downstream from a project. So they know that, hey, if this is coming, it's going to be launched in 2 weeks, I better have a sales plan, I better have a production plan, I better have my RM PM in place, I better have other things. And so everybody knows. So there is no question of not knowing.
Right.
Right. And all the senior people, all the stakeholders, everybody's in the room. So if there's a decision to be taken, we take the decision, and we force ourselves to take decisions. The normal, sometimes, brand managers can spend time, uh, choosing between the color of the cap or the tonality of the color. It's never the color of the cap. It is what degree of green or what degree of pink,
Right.
and so on and so forth. So, we cut short some of those things. We use master batches which are already there. We said, hey, take that color, use that. No questions asked. You're done. You finished. So you close decisions. And we kept feeding in the innovation process with what's happening to consumers and what were they feeling, what were they needing. And I think that helped. So, but it's been, I think, looking back to it, extremely interesting. It's challenged people. We have seen heroes all, from most unlikely places, uh, uh, and people who have really risen to the occasion.
So tell
The
me,
other thing which has also happened is that the appreciation of each other has gone up a lot, because people are working with complete transparency. So you knew if something went into, there was an upstream issue, people downstream knew that, hey, there's an issue, which means this launch is going to get pushed by 4 weeks. So that's fine, because I have another thing coming and I'll do that right now.
so tell me, what do you
So
think this does for the sort of wiring of ITC? Do you think this has made you more nimble and more flexible and with a better team spirit? All of you working together, there's 40 people working together.
I think it's shown us and the world that elephant can dance. And I think the good thing is that we were at the cutting edge, and we were ahead. And we've used that momentum to stay ahead. So both in terms of what we could do as a business, what we could do as our inputs into, we also had a large outreach where we work with various governments, various NGOs, and whatever we could do at our own personal level. So, I think the sense of satisfaction of doing well for all our constituents also gives you a good boost. But you're right, as far as ITC is concerned, it's really it's been good for us, and has told us, hey, we can be as nimble as the nimblest, and we can, when we put our minds to it. So it's taught us a new way of working.
So tell me, one of the challenges, of course, when you do new launches, and you touched upon it briefly, is attendant to the new launches is packaging, then the operational part of the packaging, which is the printing and the production of the packaging. Then, of course, you have the communication that needs to be created. All these needed to be done in a unusual way, which is in a lockdown way. So tell me, what are the biggest challenges you faced in the design of the packaging and the production of the packaging? Then we'll come to the communication.
We had European partners who worked on our packaging. Most of it is done in Europe, and normally it would take us, project would take us 12 weeks or 16 weeks. Here we were briefing them on Friday and said Monday we want it.
Right.
So there were people working on the weekend fixing it. We were clearing it, and we were going on with it. And when I look at the quality of the work, it looks as good as what we did before. So it's a matter of saying that when you really concentrate on something, and there is a sense of focus, I think you can move mountains by that. So it's interesting to see how people not only within the country but outside also responded to it. If you look at the creative agencies, I think the biggest thing, right, especially in the beginning, was that not knowing. It's not the doing of it. Like Ogilvy was a main partner in most of the Sablon and the Nemail works. So when we were going to shoot our first film, you were not sure how this would pan out, because there were some restrictions. You could shoot, the availability of actors, the director. I think the first time it was done remotely. The director was not on the set. And I still remember the first film we saw. The first film, if we normally give it a 10, I would have given it a 6 or a 7. It was not as good. But we got the second film right, the third film right, the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. I think they were all good. They were, so it's once you adapted. So what also helps is we back people, and we backed certain teams, and whoever was able to do it better, we said, hey, just go for it. I mean, we'll not reinvent the wheel. We'll go with people we know, people we can work with, and people we can trust blindly. So even if the agency may not be at the set, or and etc., it's fine. But I know you know my brand, and I know what you would shoot.
Right. ITC has got a long record of having healthy, long relationships with the vendors or partners or collaborators. How much did that help you during this pandemic? The duration of the relationship and the length of the relationships that you had.
I think we are as strong as our partners because you're as strong as your weakest link. So the relationships have been built with a lot of I think a lot of work done by both sides. Uh, these are invaluable, and these can't be replaced. And I think before you ask this question, I never thought about it. You take it for granted, right? I think both sides take for granted is there is a relationship where we can do things, we can experiment, we can go for it, we can go wrong. But it is our brand, and the understanding. I think one thing also helps is because when you work on a brand for a long time, there is a continuity as far as brand is concerned. So I don't have to explain to my agencies whether it is a Ogilvy, whether it's a JWT, whether it's a Taproot, uh, what my brand is. They know my brand as much as I know it. So we might have difference of opinion on what we have to do on this particular project, but having a common shared sense of what the brand is, you are able to produce stuff very, very quickly.
Right. A lot of your products which have been created now are sort of forced by some temporary or unexpected habit change. How much of this will bend back to normal? For example, will sanitizers continue as an important product 2 years from now? Or will your disinfectants be an important part of your portfolio? Or is that irrelevant?
No, it's never irrelevant because that's the business.
Right.
But I think what I would like to make, talk about is the brand versus the product. I think we all will agree that the brand has been built. It's a
Right.
brand which was, it's a small brand for a long period of its history, right? When we acquired it, it was very small. So now it's become a decently large brand, right? So the brand has been built. Some of the products might not do as well uh, in the future, but we have other products which will do well because there are a number of product offerings under the brand. So a soap will remain perpetual, a hand wash will remain perpetual, a antiseptic liquid will remain. Some of the new innovations which might surprise us are maybe a closed disinfectant spray. It might just be what the doctor ordered for a college student because he might want to use it if he's not washing his jeans or at least the infrequent washing habits which are there. So you might find different uses for them, which is there. Things like wipes were always at the periphery of Indian consumers. It's not that people did not know the wipes existed. It is just that they were a little expensive for most Indians. But in the top end of society, it may start getting adopted because it is more hygienic. It is obviously refreshes you. So a lot of in our business, so what we say, a lot of trial generation has happened. Some retention will be there.
Right. Sameer, throughout your career, you've been somebody who has sort of depended intensely on data and consumer insights to in your decision making. So during this period, what was your flow of understanding consumer change?
I think we used to use a data of one.
Right.
So our insight was good enough. We did not validate the insight.
So it was just gut of these 40 people.
We had to go by gut, right?
Right.
So because what was required was a decision. So we did not shy away from taking decisions, and managers do that because see, when there is no hurry, you can wait.
Right.
Herein, we felt that when you looked at consumers, you said, hey, they need something. Now, I think they need it. So what do? The simplest was that, okay, we think this much would sell. We'll make that much and we'll see how it goes.
Right.
If it picks up, we'll make more.
Right.
Or make lots more.
Right.
But yes, that involved us taking some calculated risks It involved us, obviously putting something on the line. But then I think that's what you're supposed to be doing. That's your job, to assess risk.
Right. So the last question I have for you is, in general, large organizations focus more on long-termism than short-termism. You think of what will happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and so on and so forth. In this case, we've just discussed thinking about tomorrow or day after tomorrow rather than. So how's the wiring long-termism versus short-termism? Are we going to see more of short-termism in your thinking?
No, I think it's an interesting question. This long-term versus short-term debate. Actually, there's only one term, right? And I'll just share it with you. So long-term, we have always said, and as part of what we were doing, that we would drive liquids, which is we'll convert soaps into liquids. What the pandemic has done for us is accelerated it.
Right.
So we had short-term actions to take advantage, but it was in a strategic direction. So we haven't done anything which is outside a strategic journey. It is just that we did it quickly. We were working on certain innovations. We just brought them forward. So they were part of a 5-year plan. So we got the products which we were supposed to launch in year 3 into year 1. So it is in line with direction because that's the only way it's sustainable. Otherwise, it will fade away. If it is not congruent to and you know it better, Anant, if it's not congruent to your equity. So if you were to look at any of the work we have done on Nimail or any of the work we've done on Savlon, everything is congruent to category. So either it builds the brand or it builds the business. Sometimes you launch an innovation to build the brand also. So in this pandemic, we built the brand and the business. I think questions can be there is that how much would maybe some of the products last, which is is a question which we all are answering as we are going along. But the fact still remains that everything is congruent and everything is strategic. And yes, just because you're strategic does not mean you're slow, does not mean that you cannot operate, in a certain area.
Right. I know. While I said the previous one was the last question, this is the last question. I want in as short an answer as possible. Of all the things you've done during the lockdown, when I say you, meaning your remit in ITC, what is the one thing you're proudest of? Which launch or which film or whatever it may be? The one thing you're proudest of?
I am proud of my team. I think the way I think they came together. We were on the ground on day one. The factories were up, the sales team was out, the R&D teams were working from day one, and I think they just outdid themselves. So everything aside, whether even if we had failed in most of the things, I would have still been proud of them. It's great that we've succeeded in most of this stuff.
Fantastic. That's a great way to end this interview. Thank you so much, Sameer.
And thank you, Anant. Lovely. And it's great catching up with you after so many years.
So we'll do that again in Calcutta soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Looking forward.
And that was Sameer Satpathy explaining how ITC approached new product launches and turned the crisis into an opportunity. Now let's take a look at the Melt cheat sheet. Teamwork can generate new and quicker solutions during a crisis. Client-agency trust and relationship matter more than ever before today. Demand for products in the personal care and hygiene categories are likely to sustain in the long run. With that, it's a wrap on this episode of Melt. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Our handle is Ready to Melt, and stay connected with our daily Melt update on our website readytomelt.com. I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Goodbye.